The program is Business Incorporated. What we do here is business for 55 minutes, and here's what we have prepared for you on this episode of the program. Inflation dips in South Africa, now 4.4%. The controversial cybercrime levy is back in Nigeria. According to the CBN, it's now going to be 0.005%. And a knowledge and skills bank is open in Ghana. It's been launched. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start from the global space. As usual, I'll tell you what's happening with oil. Prices steadied on Wednesday after rising in the previous two sessions as investors await. Today is the day. The United States Federal Reserve are expected to cut rates today, interest rates today, with the potential for more violence in the Middle East also fitting into that. Let's keep our eyes on the numbers at this time. $73.67 a barrel. That's for Brent after it dropped 3 cents. WTI is also down in the red, $71.08 a barrel. Both contracts gained about $1 a barrel on Tuesday on lingering supply disruptions in the United States, which we know is the world's biggest oil producer. Hurricane Francine, of course, did bring a bit of disruption to supply. And traders are betting on that interest rate, which we will get to know later on today from the United States. And of course, that's going to lead the sentiment in many countries on decisions of MPCs. Ours is for Nigeria. It's next week, and we will keep our eyes on that table. We're still on the global space now. We're looking at what's happening with metals. Gold prices were flat on Wednesday as investors weighed chances of an outsized interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve later on today. Look at the numbers right there. Spot gold is unchanged. I guess most of these metals have already factored in the possibility of a 25 or 50 basis point cut by the Federal Reserve. So we see spot gold unchanged, $2,571.28. U.S. gold is in the green, went up 0.2%, $2,597.60 per ounce. Silver is down, spot silver that is, lost 1%, $30.42 per ounce. Platinum is also down 0.2%, $979.85 per ounce. Palladium was also down, even much more than those other two, 0.6% at $1,109.42. Data released on Tuesday show that the United States retail sales unexpectedly rose by 0.1% in August. That suggests that the economy remains on solid footing through much of the third quarter. Among other metals, we've seen their mixed sentiment for most of those metals. We come to Nigeria now, where the Central Bank of Nigeria has announced that it will continue the enforcement of the controversial cybercrime levy at 0.005% on all electronic transactions under its guidelines for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. This levy, which has sparked debate among Nigerians, is mandated by the Cybercrime Prohibition Prevention Act of 2015, aimed at bolstering the nation's cybersecurity infrastructure. In May, a circular from the Central Bank of Nigeria released implementation guidelines on the collection and remittance of the National Cybersecurity Levy. Subsequently, the government suspended implementation of that levy via its circular of June 17, 2024, following widespread concerns expressed by stakeholders. It can be observed that the percentage has been reduced from 0.5%, which is what it was in May, to 0.005% in the new guideline. Staying with the central bank now, the CBN has reconstituted the board of directors at Keystone Bank in a move aimed at driving sustained growth for the financial institution. The announcement includes the appointment of Lady Ada Chukwudozie as the new board chairman, along with 5 other non-executive directors. This strategic step aligns with the CBN's broader efforts to strengthen the bank's governance and leadership. Now, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has issued an order transferring regulatory oversight of the electricity market in Kogi State to the State Electricity Regulatory Commission. In an order on September 18, the Commission said that the directive would take effect immediately. According to NERC, the transfer complies with the amended Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Electricity Act 2023 amended. NERC, however, retains the role as a central regulator with the regulatory oversight on the interstate, international generation, transmission, supply, trading, and system operations. Also, NERC directed the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company to incorporate a subsidiary, AEDC Subco, to take over responsibilities for intrastate supply and distribution of electricity in Kogi State from AEDC. Now, the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, is asking every stakeholder, especially those from the organized private sector, to engage actively on the reforms and tax reforms and provide valuable feedback to ensure that tax system becomes a tool for revenue generation and promoting sustainable economic development. Mr. Idahosa, who was speaking at the Lcci FIRS Organized Private Sector Stakeholders Engagement in Lagos, believes that there's also a growing need for collaboration between the private sector and the government to ensure that tax policies support business innovation and competitiveness. For instance, it says recommending tax breaks for wage increases and removing barriers to foreign currency denominated transactions can create a more robust investment environment. The meeting is on the theme Emerging Tax Matters. As Nigerians grapple with rising costs of living, some states in the country have recorded higher inflation rates more than the others, such as Lcci State. Well, speaking on Business Morning earlier today, Mr. Christian Udechukwu, the Commissioner for Industry in Anambra State, is asking subnationals to support businesses with an enabling environment which could lower costs of credit.
The economy has been under stress, Nigerian economy, and that obviously is also partly a result of ripples of global inflationary pressures that has reached our shores. Which is made even more complicated by some of the local dynamics of the Nigerian economy. We have had productivity issues, we've had power generating issues, and there has been recently a lot of logistics challenges to do with fuel distribution. The spending power is at the discretion of the government at the federal level, and there's a potpourri of information and data that informs their decision making. I imagine that the focus is on increased productivity and what will help to ensure that productivity rises, we will begin to see a downward pressure on these inflationary figures that you're showing. We don't necessarily need to cap prices per se.
That hasn't really worked.
Well, yes, because it would seem a little bit repressive. But there are tools that are available to economic decision makers to ensure that when they deploy them, it will be in the interest of all operators in the economy to ensure that they maintain prices at stable levels and then even begin to pressure them downwards.
So I wonder the prospect of that pressuring prices downwards. Let's discuss that now with the head of research, Sterling Asset Management, Mr. Patrick Ejemudia joins us here in the studio. Mr. Ejemudia, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Well, the issue of high prices, I don't know if I'm saying we should get used to it, but we've started seeing a dip in inflation number 2 months now. But a lot of people will tell you they can't feel it in their purchasing power, neither can they see it in the price of commodities.
Yeah.
Can we expect that, as that commissioner said from Anambra State, that we can pressure prices down with the realities around us?
Okay, so of course, because we are in, first is because we are in the harvest period. Ordinarily, we expect prices to come down, particularly for some of those agricultural commodities. But we are not seeing that because of what we call the human factor. Most times people feel that they've sold for a particular amount at a certain time and they wouldn't want to sell the same amount again. So those human factors are some of the things that are possibly driving the prices up, not coming down as to what we expect.
That's what the FCCPC is trying to fight against. I know they did come out, at least in statement hard, some weeks ago. and all of that.
But it's difficult to do that because this price is a chain. People buy from different stages, and that commands the amount of money that they're going to charge for whatever commodity they are selling. So except one is going to be doing that from the source, it's difficult for you to put a price at the price at which people are going to be selling their commodities.
Are you saying if we were to look at the chain honestly, that prices shouldn't be as high as they are at this time?
Yeah, because this is harvest. Ordinarily, we expect price of commodity to come down. Ordinarily, but over time, there's what we call time factor. So if you take away the element of time from these prices, you will see that naturally at this time we expect prices to come down.
And they're not down enough because we've seen inflation drop. So that should suggest that at least the rate of increase has reduced.
Come down. Yeah.
But
the market price is not coming down. So you see people telling you that, oh, what is government saying? Prices have come down, but the market price is not coming down.
So you think that's the human factor?
Yeah, the logistic factor is one of them. But the retail people at the middle chain often put so much price at the time of trying to put a price to whatever they are selling. So those people tend to sell at a price that is higher. Sometimes you see a producer who is producing something at say 50 naira, but the retailer who is selling it at 200 naira. So making it like double profit from what the person who actually produces the good is making. So these factors can play a role.
So help me to understand, and I'm sure a lot of people want to understand, at what point you think this human factor is influencing price. Let's take tomatoes, for instance. We know that majority of the tomatoes consumed here in the West is produced from the North. At what point do you see, is it exactly at the traders in, for instance, Mile 12 market, or is it those who sell to the traders? At what point do you think this human factor comes into play?
Almost at every stage, because at the time where I use the word businessman who goes to the north, for instance, to pick up these commodities, he puts a margin on it, he brings it to Mile 12, and at Mile 12, some other persons are also buying from him at that spot. Those people also put their own margin onto it, and they also take it to nearby stores or supermarkets, and those at the supermarket also put in their own prices to it. So it's almost at every stage that you see those human factors coming into play.
So do we encourage the FCCPC to do price control?
It's kind of difficult because we've had it before, and sometimes it was abolished. And I think the reason is because of mismanagement and all that. And because anytime government usually brings its hand into interfering into the market, what you see is hoarding, and hoarding will lead to black market and higher prices that will come out of it. So except if government want to put up those kind of things, then there must be really strong political will to ensure that prices does not go up extra too higher than what it is now.
So at the rate we are going now, how do you see this year ending for Nigerians? I mean, when we talk about the cost of living.
It's difficult to say prices will come down because we are entering into the fourth quarter. And usually the fourth quarter, there's usually this high demand, people traveling, people demanding for things, and other people want to move to their houses, people want to buy stuff, people want to buy clothes, people want to go to school. So these prices is difficult. We've said that it's going to remain at 30%, even though the government has earlier said it will be around 24 or 23% by the end of the year. It's difficult to attain that goal, maybe around that 30, maybe higher, because by the time we end the harvest period, sometime around November, December, now we're entering January, when they are no longer in harvest period, prices again will begin to come up again.
Yeah, but we have a lot of government intervention still going. There's the import duty suspension, which is supposed to end by December. We've heard federal government giving state government bags of rice. There's the what do you call it now, the subsidized bag of rice sale to at least the civil servants at this time. Don't you think all of that will combine and kind of create a buffer for prices?
So the question,
at least for food.
The question now is it actually getting to those people? If you go out there, you find out that what we hear is that some people are holding it, they are taking larger quantity, and they are going to resell at almost the market price. So I think what we should be thinking about is seeing to ensure that it gets to those people who such programs are meant for. Otherwise, we'll be seeing people buying it, hold it in December or time when the demand will be high, they bring it out and sell it at high prices.
So your outlook for the rest of the year is actually high prices?
Basically, particularly because you are in third quarter. And thank God for, let's say, what the CBN is doing to ensure that they stabilize the exchange rate. Otherwise, we would have been seeing some form of prices coming in form of exchange rates, imported goods, exchange rate, and all and the likes. So from now to the end of the year, we are likely to be seeing that happening.
What about the factor of energy costs? Because that is
it's what everybody's talking about at the moment.
Yes, you know.
You see, two things. One is the fact that we must realize that big industries use AGO. And if you check the inflation data that the NBS released, one of the factors that has probably drove it down is because of the drop in AGO prices that dropped by about 5% or thereabouts. Now, yes, many of these organizations at some point for logistics will use PMS because they want to move around, and they will even move their management staff and some form of things, through using PMS to do that. Yes, that will bring in some factors. It will make price go up because of the increase in the PMS prices. But again, don't forget that a lot of people now will now use a larger fraction of their income to be buying PMX. So that will also drop demand. And when that drops demand, what happens is that some people produce and their goods have been stuck in the shelf. Nobody's buying it.
The manufacturers complained of that. I think that was the second quarter of this year. But we have CNG conversations going on now. Isn't that impactful?
CNG is for moving people. It's not for the factory. So except we have those companies trying to now get those CNG cars or CNG buses and they begin to use it. But for now, government, I don't think we've been able to do 50 CNG cars. We've not been able to do that.
No, I mean a conversion, because the government, I spoke to one of the officials of the presidential initiative of CNG, and they have this plan or program for the commercial vehicles, mass transit operators, to convert their vehicles. Do you think that can at least reduce the pressure on PMS and the expenditure on it?
To some extent, yes. But it also depends on, will I say, the minds of also Nigerians. At this point, for instance, when prices are coming down, you expect ordinarily that people will begin to do what they call carpooling and the rest to minimize their costs. Maybe I use your car today, use my car tomorrow, and the rest. But what you find that everybody still wants to bring their cars outside, irrespective of the high price. So these issues are there. So some of those issues, by the time we begin to put them into consideration, then we will now begin to see how long it will take to do the conversion. It's not something that will just be done in 1 month, sometimes 2 months, 3 months, and the likes.
All right. Anyway, bottom line is, from your perspective, the year is going to end hard.
We are already seeing it. If you look at what is happening in terms of exchange rates, you will see that the government is doing a lot to ensure that they stabilize it. Otherwise, even though it's still high, we would have been seeing something higher than what it is now. If you look at inflation, yes, it's coming down, but we've also not seen PMS prices. We are also seeing flood in some of the states too. So these issues are also going to ensure that price does not come down the way we expect it to be or the way government has planned. Except extra effort is being put in place, ensuring that this initiative that government is putting in place get to the people who actually need it. We might not be seeing it coming down.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Patrick Ejemundia, Head of Research at Sterling Asset Management. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, unfortunately, not very good news there, at least from Mr. Ejemundia's perspective, and I guess you would also have yours. We'll see as the day comes. Perhaps a miracle can happen, yeah? Let's not give up yet. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to the markets with Will Ibong. So stay with us. Welcome back to watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. We'll head to the markets now with Will Ibong. Will, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Today is the D-Day.
Yes.
The U.S. Fed is just a couple of hours away.
Couple of hours. I see you're wearing orange, so I think the Fed will definitely do something. Amber. This is amber.
I don't think the Fed sees me. Even if the NGX sees me,
the Fed doesn't.
I doubt, yeah. So, I mean, we're safe.
Okay, we're safe.
Yes, well, you can tell Mr. Rwani that.
Oh, definitely.
Safe.
I'm sure he'll be keeping an eye on you. But I know that the U.S. Fed, when they make that decision, is going to have an impact on Nigeria's economy as well, because, mostly our debt is denominated in the dollar, and that will see an an easing in terms of the debt repayment that we
Yeah.
have to do, and we'll see if Nigeria will be able to make the
we'll
most of
certainly
it.
see.
So probably maybe cut the foreign debt and see how we can, you know, grow
but by how
our
many
production,
percent?
our manufacturing sector.
Don't forget that we just took $900 million. We are aiming for $2 billion. The analyst I spoke to then said that $900 million is going to cost the federal government about $1.5 billion in 5 years to pay that back. You know, so I mean, all of that. If they cut the rates today, I don't know if
yeah,
we still have a lot in debt servicing.
But we just hope that the government sees this as an opportunity to say maybe slow down and maybe, you know, rethink the strategy of how they can grow the economy.
We'll see.
So let's look at how markets performed at intraday. Major equities in Africa were mostly positive. We see Nigeria's NGX regaining the 98,000 level at intraday. We hope that's sustained at the close of business. It rose by 0.39%. And we see South Africa's GSE in the red, more than 0.5%, down 0.59%. But let's look at Egypt's EGX and see how the day. But for the moves at the NGX, we're seeing the buy interest in O&O and Access Holdings. Hopefully that's a rebound for that index, for that stock price. And we're also seeing profit taking in Flour Mills and Evian Holdings. Let's look at the EGX 30 and see how they performed. They were up at intraday 0.41%. 30,000 level and counting, and the Egyptian exchange has been strongly outperforming themselves these days. So we'll see how they go forward. Kenya's stock market, we see them down Tuesday's trading session to close 0.69% down. Let's look at other markets now, the unlisted equities markets, and see what's going on there. Aradel is the thing to look out for, and we have Mrs. Davina Adeni, Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer at Best Worth Assets and Trust Limited. Good afternoon, ma'am. It's good to have you in the program. We see that Aradel, ma'am, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Fantastic. So we see that Aradel Holdings is preparing to list on the NGX. It's upon us now. We can't run away from it, staring us in the face. And the oil and gas company, the oil company, has notified shareholders and the NASD of their intention to effect the redenomination and stock split on the ordinary shares. Aradel's outstanding shares currently stand at over 270 million units and at 10 naira each. The share price closed yesterday, that's Tuesday, at over 9,700 naira. Mrs. Adeni, can you tell us this Aradel's nominal value, how is it expected to change from 10 naira to 50 kobo? Can you walk us through the process, the redenomination and stock split process, and how will this exist and how will existing shareholders be affected by this change?
Thank you very much, Will. Basically, what investors who already had a position with Aradel should be looking up to now, because it's like a change in the value and also the change in price of the stock based on the requirements for listing on the NGX. We all know that in the coming days there will be a shift, a transfer of the listing from the NASD for Aradel to listing on the NGX. So what this will mean automatically is that every investor who has shares in NASD with Aradel will expect an automatic, change in the quantity and the price, because the listing requirement for NGX is 50 kobo nominal par value, while that of the listing as it was on the NASD was at the 10 naira nominal value today. So with the deadline set up for today, every investor who is on board today will expect from tomorrow the value and the quantity of their shares will change. So for example, if you're an investor, you have like 20 units, so automatically you're going to have, 8 times 20 of the units that you have in volume. So 20 units times 20 will give you about 400.
Okay.
So for the value, you have the value divided by 20. Did you get me right, Will?
Okay, so that's
so
what...
for the price 20 while the volume will be multiplied by 20. So, and today is the benchmark. After today, there will be a change, and all this in preparation for fulfilling the requirement for listing on the NGX.
Okay, so definitely we look out to Aradel on the NGX, on that playground where everybody would be keeping an eye on them. But we're hearing news that Flour Mills Nigeria is planning to delist from the NGX. How true is that? And how is that impacting on Flour Mills right now and shareholders? What sentiments?
Well, could you repeat that, please?
I said Flour Mills, we're hearing reports, it's not been confirmed yet, but we're hearing reports that Flour Mills is planning to delist from the NGX, to consolidate and relist on the NGX because of a merger between Flour Mills and Honeywell. Is that true? And how is that impacting sentiments in the markets?
Well, when the listing takes off on the NGX, it will be expected that investors will be looking at comparing the new rates when it would have been adjusted to the rates of companies in the similar sector. Let's look at Seplat, for example. Seplat, as at now, is in the same category with Aradel, and they're already listed on the NGX.
Did you hear the question?
We all know that Seplat.
Hello, ma'am. Did you hear my question? I'm talking about Flour Mills right now. We're getting reports that they want to delist from the NGX and have a merger, go into a merger with Honeywell and consolidate and relist. Is that news true? These are reports we're hearing. It's not been confirmed, but I just want to know if it's true and what impact is it having on investors' sentiments.
So, while the stocks split automatically, like we all know, would bring down the rate as of today. Today, we have Aradel being listed at about 9,800 naira per unit. So when it will have been adjusted, it will come down to about 400. And you know that will mean that there's a lot of space for growth. Okay? So because if we compare 400 when it is adjusted at the rate of about 400 plus, you could
I think we've having some technical issues.
It's right now listed at about 3,050 naira. So that would mean that investors will be looking up to a kind of appreciation, price appreciation in the price. We know that if you look at the rates, dividend payment rate, earning per share of Aradel is really, really robust. So investors are looking at the growth of their price when they will have been listed on NGX to begin to kind of meet up with the current price of Seplat, which is about 3,370 naira as at today.
Thank you so much.
Because Aradel is in the same category, upstream, downstream sector of the economy.
Oh, thank you so much, Mrs. Davina Adeni, Chief Executive Officer, Bestworth Assets and Trust Limited, for sharing those insights with us. So I know we didn't get to talk about Flour Mills, as I hope you have probably technical issues. You couldn't hear me properly. So we'll just be moving on. Thank you so much for your perspective on Business Incorporated. So move on now to other major markets in the Middle East, we see the trading were mixed at intraday. Abu Dhabi down at intraday. We see Abu Dhabi down at intraday 0.19%. Dubai also down 0.24%. Now looking at other markets within the region, we see Saudi and Qatari indexes doing so well. We see the Saudi market 0.25% up and Qatari index 0.01% up. Now let's look at the futures markets in the US, which rose slightly today as investors are anticipating the long-awaited rate cut from the Federal Reserve, and this is following years of aggressive hikes aimed at controlling inflation. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, you see it up 0.14%. See similar margin for the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq futures is ticked up 0.17%. And the Fed, which we know is expected to announce its latest policy decision at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's about 6 p.m. GMT, that's the Greenwich Mean Time, and 7 p.m. West African Time. While traders are certain the rates will drop, they are split on how big the cuts will be, and we have the CME Group's Fed Watch tool showing that a 65% chance of a 50 basis points cut, with 35% betting on a smaller 25 basis points reduction. Now let's see markets in Asia now. They closed today mostly higher. with Australia's S&P extending gains now. But we see other markets, investors are waiting. The Fed reserves, as in the U.S., they're waiting that rate decision, and this is also impacting the markets in that region. They're also going to be analyzing Japan's trade data for August. Japan's Nikkei 225, we see it rose and closed at 0.49%, 36,000 points. We see the Kospi, which is still closed in South Korea, 0.13%. And we see the Hang Seng closed today as well for 1.37% up closed yesterday's trading session there. We see mainland China's Shanghai ticking up. If you look at the markets there, other markets in that region, we see Shanghai up 0.49%, and we see the Nifty 50 in India down 0.21%. So in the markets are reacting to the U.S. Fed's policy decision. Well, the anticipated rate cut, the expected of that. So we're seeing that investors are, buying. We see that rise for U.S. stocks. We see mixed reactions in Asia. Some are buying, some are selling, some are being cautious.
Well, all of this will be clearer in the next couple of hours.
In the next couple of hours.
And I'm sure by the time we're having this conversation this time tomorrow,
we'll know what is going to happen.
Exactly where it is.
Yes.
All right, Will, thank you so much. Well, talking about the U.S., chip maker Intel has cancelled one of its largest investments, a new chip factory that's supposed to be in Germany, planned at a cost of 30 billion euros. I wonder why. Lars Holter has the details. Hi, Lars. Why exactly do we have this decision?
Thanks for having me, Ini. Well, first of all, let me say this is a huge disappointment for Germany and specifically for the state of Saxony-Anhalt, where this chip factory was supposed to be built in the city of Magdeburg. That's just about an hour away from Berlin here. And now, as disappointing as it is, though, it's not entirely surprising because we've known for a while that Intel was in trouble. The company has lost over $1 billion in the past quarter and is expected to lose more money for the full fiscal year as well. All that after they've really missed the boat on AI. Look at what the competition has been doing. NVIDIA has long put everything on AI-ready chips, and as artificial intelligence has become the dominant technology in web apps, cell phones, and the likes, they've seen their market share rise rapidly. Chipmaker AMD has also been pretty aggressive in the field, whereas Intel, once the market leader, has pretty much dropped into third place.
Missing out on this Intel investments would mean for the German economy?
Well, it's a huge disappointment, especially since the Intel project was long and loudly praised as proof that Germany is globally seen as an attractive location. A few years ago, Tesla has built a gigafactory just outside Berlin, and this Intel plant would have been the next huge international project. Very important, especially for the eastern part of the country. More than 30 years after Germany's reunification, the former East Germany is still lagging behind the West economically, and hopes were high for projects like this chip plant to eventually overcome this rift. Another point Germany wanted to have this chip factory here is to gain a bit of independence in this future tech market, to be less dependent on suppliers from the US and Asia, there especially, of course, China. So that's why the German government had planned to support Intel's investment to the tune of 10 billion euros even. And now the question is, what will we do with all that money saved? Sounds, of course, like a luxury problem to have, but politicians can turn everything into a fight. Germany's finance minister wants to claw back those funds and plug budget holes. Others are saying the money should still be invested, but in other projects. Some could be mid and small-sized companies that need governmental support. Other projects have to do with green energy, decarbonization, or generally supporting industries to become more sustainable and climate-friendly.
All right, thank you so much. I wonder if this is affecting investor sentiment.
It's Fed Day, finally, one could say, because in true market fashion, we're talking about such an event for days, debating on what it means for markets, and then we finally get to see what really happens. First up, will the Fed, the U.S. Central Bank, cut rates by 25 or by 50 basis points later today? That's basically the two possibilities. 50 points actually is what a slight majority of analysts are expecting. Anything else, I mean, other than 25 or 50 points, would be a huge surprise and would certainly shock markets. As to what markets will make out of today's cut, like we said before, depends on context, and that will hopefully come in the Fed's statement.
Yeah, sure will come. Thank you so much, Lars.
Thank you, Ini.
Now let's come back to Africa, and we're starting with South Africa. It's good news for them right there. We see South Africa's annual inflation rate fell below the midpoint of the central bank's target range for the first time in more than 3 years, and consumer prices rose 4.4% in August compared to 4.6% the prior month, that's July. And this is according to the Pretoria-based Statistics South Africa. Meanwhile, the rand firmed on Wednesday ahead of an expected U.S. Federal Reserve interest rate cut and South African inflation data. In early Wednesday trade, the rand traded at about 17.5625 against the dollar, about 0.2% firmer than its previous close. Markets are certain that the Fed will cut rates when its policy announcement is made on Wednesday, and better on 50 basis point interest rate cut in the world's biggest economy. Well, we are still in South Africa and still talking prices now. Our shoppers spent a total of 181 billion rands on fast-moving consumer goods. That's the FMCG. That happened in the second quarter of this year, 2024, and it represents 4.8% uplift compared with the same period last year. The tech and durables, that's the T&D market, remained virtually unchanged from the same period last year at a value of 31 billion rands for the second quarter of 2024. This, according to insights from the NIQ Retail Spend Barometer, which combines data from NIQ and JFK to measure the turnover and sales of fast-moving consumer goods and T&D. Goods were purchased in stores across South Africa. Newly launched in South Africa, the barometer provides a comprehensive overview of sales trends to guide brand and retailer strategies. The barometer tracks food, perishables, home and personal care categories in the FMCG sector and the technical consumer goods, household appliances, DIY and home improvement categories in the tech sector. The study, based on real sales data, analyzes big data across both categories and will be published every quarter. From the south to the north, in Egypt, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has met with Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Moudbly to explore available investment opportunities between both countries in the fields of industry, agriculture, and renewable energy. This is according to a statement issued by the spokesperson for the Egyptian cabinet, Mohammed Al-Hosnan. During the meeting, the Saudi prince ordered the injection of $5 billion in investment into Egypt as its first phase. A significant portion of the meeting focused on ways to attract and facilitate investment and work on removing any obstacles to Saudi investment in Egypt. The most prominent investment areas discussed in the meeting were manufacturing in the food security field and localizing the automotive industry, especially electric vehicles, cooperation in renewable energy generation, in addition to other areas such as urban development and city building. We're still in Egypt, where Egypt and Hungary have entered into a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on nuclear reactor for the country technology. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Badir Lcci, announced this partnership during a joint press conference with Hungarian counterpart. Lcci highlights that Egypt's Daba plant houses 4 reactors, while Hungary has a similar station utilizing the same technology to produce nuclear energy. Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy, Mahmoud Isman, commends the Hungary's expertise in the field, emphasizing the significance of mutual cooperation in nuclear reactor technologies between the two countries. Located in the Mafrud Governorate in northwestern Egypt, the Daba plant stands as the country's inaugural nuclear power facility. And this 4.8 million gigawatt plant, constructed by Russia's Rosatom in conjunction with Egypt's Nuclear Power Plants Authority, is slated for full operation by 2030. Rosatom was commissioned in 2015 to construct the plant and supply it with fuel. Upon completion, the project aims to contribute around 10% of Egypt's total energy consumption and yield up to 35 billion kilowatts of hours of electricity annually. To the west now, the government of the Republic of Ghana has launched the Ghana Knowledge and Skills Bank, a comprehensive digital education hub that gives students access to educational materials, online tutoring, and platform for students to interact and study. Apart from the enormous resource and learning materials, including past questions and free access platform powered by artificial intelligence, they have options for self-learning and self-assessment. It also allows users to create or join forums for learning and sharing of ideas, giving a classroom feeling in the digital space. The portal also has a career planning tool and an online tutoring system that assists users to overcome their challenges in any topic or subject area. Now let's head to the crypto space, and we have Laddie Williams as usual. Laddie,
yeah, as usual,
yeah.
And as usual, it's
yeah,
rate setting season.
Yeah, no, it's not a usual day today.
Yeah, every other month, and this time all eyes on the U.S. Fed. What are they going to do next? And we're going to get that decision today. But I keep thinking, and you remember when they started raising rates, most of the central bankers, everyone was afraid for risk assets. You know, everyone's running to safety. But we saw risk assets do really well. And now they want to start cutting rates. What's going to happen with risk assets?
What's going on with gold?
Maybe the opposite? Who knows? But
what's going on with gold?
New highs.
Yeah.
And everybody's eyeing $3,000 per ounce for gold.
But we're not moving there fast.
It's not, it's not fast enough.
We're not moving there fast. We're still hovering around.
But it's been an incredible run for gold. I remember reporting gold at about $1,600
Yeah, I remember 1.9 about this time last year.
1.9, yeah. But now we're over $2,000 and
$2,500 actually.
Eyes on $3,000. When is that going to happen? We'll find out. But after the rate cut, what happens next?
When is your Bitcoin going to hit the high?
Yeah,
we're waiting for before the halving. Halving has come and gone, and we haven't seen Bitcoin hit.
They had that pump from the halving. Then we also had the ETF, Bitcoin ETF pump. All of that happened.
Did we really see the pump from the halving?
It wasn't so bad. Did get a new high, $70,000. But most are getting bullish at this rate now, expecting what the U.S. Fed will do with rates. But what if it's a bull trap? What if they cut rates? We see that rally, then it all comes crumbling down.
I don't think you want to imagine cutting rates at this stage.
At this stage, we'll see.
I mean, raising rates at this stage.
Yeah, you can't raise rates.
How many basis points cuts are we expecting?
They say maybe 4 along the line, maybe about 4 cuts or 5 cuts, but who knows? Some data could just come up and,
and
switch that
change.
up.
Exactly.
We'll definitely find out. But the crypto market not looking so bad. Some pockets of red with Ethereum, 1.12% down. Opposite of what's happening with Bitcoin. BNB also continuing that bearish trend, and TON trying to recover back to that $7 level. Note everything's happening on TON blockchain now, talking about those tap to earn projects and all of those airdrops all happening on TON. Let's look at the sentiment in the market. We know it's still a fearful market, still around that 45 points. Fear, it did get to extreme fear, but we're seeing a recovery. Maybe greed might setting at some point. But let's look at the headlines now. We see a hacker that has moved a couple of millions of dollars to Tornado Cash. That's the hacker behind the $230 million exploit of India's largest crypto exchange, WazirX. He made a fresh movement, $11 million in Ethereum to that crypto mixer. It's called Tornado Cash. So the hacker, we see everyone tracking that address to see where he's going to end up. But it's confusing a lot of people with that Tornado Cash movement. Then Binance, they've set conditions for joining Nigeria's crypto program. That's one of the biggest trading platforms. They've outlined 2 conditions that must be met before they may consider registering under the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission's special framework program for onboarding virtual asset service providers, including crypto platforms. And we know We still have that Binance executive being held at this time, but who knows what's going to happen with that. But let's bring in Ade Adebajo, is a co-founder, ICP.Hub Sahara. Great to have you on the show.
Great to be here once again, Laddie. Thank you for having me.
So we see the SEC here, they've granted approval in principle to 2 crypto exchanges at the moment, but we see other crypto exchanges trying to get in here. But do you think Binance is being bougie at this point?
Yeah, I mean, if we can bring Binance on board to fully be registered under the SEC initiative, the HARIPS initiative, I mean, it's going to be a good thing for the ecosystem generally, and also within the country, because it promotes Nigeria as one of those few countries that have successfully regulated the industry. And of course, can also mean providing competition for other markets, making it a home for anybody willing to invest in anything crypto because of the active regulatory system. But with Binance, I mean, yeah, I mean, to me, if you ask me, they are quite on the track, naming the 2 basic reasons or the reasons they can decide to get registered in the country under the SEC initiative. I mean, detaining their executive for God knows how long now, ages, is quite something that needs to be addressed. And of course, what's it called? The allegations also needs to be addressed before all this can be done. And yeah, there you have it.
Right, but you did mention regulation and being successfully regulated. But looking at the crypto industry, generally, do you think most of the SECs, in most of these countries, can actually truly regulate this sector?
Well, it's an ongoing initiative, but probably an ongoing innovation, several innovations within the ecosystem. And there is this thing we always say in the industry. The technology will keep on improving while the regulators will have a lot of time to catch up. So they're always playing catch up. And with new innovations coming into the space every now and then. So creating regulatory framework, it's always on a catch up. So they are only trying to regulate what they've known over the last couple of years, not what is currently coming up in the space. But creating the sandboxes can actually provide a way for them to learn as things are growing. And well, when it comes to truly regulating the industry, they can only regulate what they understand. And with the new innovations coming in the space, like metaverse, like NFTs, like a lot of tokens being introduced into the airdrop ecosystem, and so on and so forth. So they can only try to understand what they have within their folds, which is why they are bringing in exchanges and all. But to truly regulate, it's a question of it can it really be done? And the answer is only going to be made known if they actually are able to get it done. But with regards to other potentials, which is one of the things I feel is one of the reasons regulation is coming into the space, tax revenues, which is what the government is actually kind of bent on at the moment, taxing anything taxable. And with billions of dollars in the crypto ecosystem provides a grant for them to tax. I mean, to have a lot of revenue from the taxation is one of the reasons regulation is coming up in full force.
Well, I'm up for anything that creates jobs in Nigeria and actually brings in foreign currency. Do you see a time where a fully owned crypto exchange in Nigeria, fully owned Nigerian crypto exchange, can actually operate here and also get on board users from abroad? Do you see that happening?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you look at countries like Mauritius, like some of the other islands that provide full regulation for crypto, they've been able to market themselves globally as a country that supports regulation. So, and any regulation tends to bring in a lot of investors, from local investors to international investors. So bringing in a regulation within the country for crypto ecosystem provides a grant, for sort of strategy to attract investment and talent, away from the less regulated markets. So because then you tend to attract, a lot of potential investors from abroad. And this, in a way, is kind of like a good thing, because Nigeria, we have a population. But then if we have regulated industry for the crypto sector, this attracts a lot of foreign investors, both Nigerians in diaspora, other African countries, other countries where regulation is not currently present. So it's actually a good thing for the country.
All right. Just give me an estimate off the top of your head. How much does it cost to start a crypto exchange?
Yeah, currently we have a lot of white label solutions that people can, decide to buy, and then probably do a little bit of improvement further on. But to start, pretty much if you have like, let's say about not talking about the what's it called, the sec fees to get registered and to get licensed, but to start with your software platform, if you have let's say about 5 million naira, you should be able to start on a low scale. Then subsequently you'll be able to advance, get more storage capacity, more servers and all sorts. But to start on a little scale with 5 million naira, you can actually do that.
You can start a cryptocurrency exchange with 5 million naira.
Absolutely.
Quite interesting. Thank you so much. Always great having your perspective, Adedayo. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me once again.
Right. So yeah, a crypto exchange.
You. I think you're putting some money up somewhere because you have a plan.
But it looks like a lot of work running a cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah,
though.
it's a lot of work doing anything, especially because the crypto business platform, it's just growing in Nigeria.
Right.
I mean, even the United States that's supposed to be the most developed and all of that, they still have regulation issues and it's still a sensitive business.
Very sensitive.
I mean, when you talk about Nigeria, you want to plunge into that, you should have a lot of backing.
So much backing.
Yeah.
Because they always have to deal with hacks every now and then.
Yeah, you have
trying to
that,
exploit.
you have the government,
Right.
you have the sentiment of the investors also to consider. So, I mean, it's not a business that's...
Right. But it's very easy doing it on the hamster combat platform, running an exchange.
For now, laddie, because
they make it look easy.
Yeah,
but
they make it look easy
it's really
for
hard.
now. That's even in a baby stage
right
now. So you can imagine some introductions that will be coming. I mean, you were talking about a listing that was done, and when it was time to pay off some of those.
Yeah, they just got dust.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, trust me, when it comes to do with money.
Yeah.
It's very sensitive. It's never easy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Laddie. So
Thank
that's it on the program. In case you're like Laddie thinking of putting 5 million naira somewhere else, I think you just think about it very well before you plunge into that. But that's it on Business Incorporated today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll do it again tomorrow, Thursday. We'll take you around the world of business in 55 minutes. I'm John Mekwa. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.